When I was a boy, steam trains intoxicated me. It wasn't just the locomotives themselves, but the Britain they represented, the wonderful land they carried you through. Now, like the rural post office and the old blue passport, it's all gone in a puff of smoke. Or has it? If you know where to look, you can still find traces of ancient Britain. And as often as not, they're connected by railways, lines that by right should have gone years ago, but somehow managed to cling on against all the odds. The Romney Hythe Dymchurch is just such a line. It's about an hour from London, but it might as well be in Outer Mongolia. It's a jewel, everything that a railway should be, especially because it uses steam engines. There's simply nothing to match the wonder of steam. Roaring along with a lungful of soot and an eyeful of cinders puts you in a poetic frame of mind, as does this remarkable part of Kent.
The landscape the railway runs through is quite extraordinary because it starts off amongst bungalows by the sea, very, very sort of British, ordinary seaside landscape, and then moves into the most extraordinary world of sheep and marshes and flatlands, and a world where the sky and the earth come down to meet together and a kind of infinite flat distance. It's as if the railway is coming out of an ordinary everyday world and out into a magical landscape that's completely its own.
The RH&D covers 13.5 miles of coastal countryside, providing a true service to communities that would otherwise have to rely on rural bus services, also on the endangered list. Without the transport links that keep places like Dymchurch plugged into the national picture, there's a danger that they could become insular or even provincial. It's not just about mobility, it's about survival.
The wonderful thing about these little railways is that they serve dynamic, thrusting, vibrant towns that are nevertheless a little bit too small and too insignificant for the big grown-up railways to bother with. Like so many of these special lines, the Romney Hythe Dymchurch Railway relies on enthusiasm and enthusiasts, but it always has done. In fact, it was founded by two 1920s enthusiasts, the racing driver and playboy multimillionaire landowner Captain Jack Howie and Count Louis Zabrowski, another 1920s racing driver, playboy millionaire. But you know who he was, even if you don't know the name. He was the man that drove the original Chitty Chitty Bang Bang.
In the 1920s, Howie used the fortune he had made in Australia to provide the Kent coast with a full-scale railway service in miniature. Howie adored engineering and the company of engineers. It's said that he could have lived like a prince, but he preferred to lurk in the loco shed, talking hammers and spanners. He liked to take work home with him as well.
It's said that Captain Howie used to keep one of these full-sized Romney Hythe Dymchurch railway locomotives, all 8 tons of it, in the living room at home. And when Mrs. Howie used to go out for a packet of fags or to get her hair done, well, he used to light it up and get up a full head of steam. Very nice for Captain Howie, but I'm not sure about the soft furnishings in the living room.
Keith Massey loves the train so much, he moved to a line-side house and then took down his garden fence to get even closer. He knew Howie well and his penchant for unconventional rail transport.
Well, they had one they converted for the winter service, powered by a Rolls-Royce engine. And I think he used to do about 60 miles an hour with it.
On this track?
On this track.
60?
Mm.
So it's like a scale speed, full scale about... It's 180, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right.
Did you go on it with him?
Without brakes, I might add. For his own personal transport, he had a like a high-speed roller skate. And that's all described it. Apparently you had to run along and jump on. I hope it didn't take off without you. He covered from New Romney to Hythe in 7.5 minutes.
Howie loved speed, but he loved profit too. He was intent on carrying truckloads of tourists to the magnificent Kent coast. For generations of holidaymakers, the experience has started at Romney Sands, at this purpose-built station. The British are a people designed to enjoy their leisure hours, throwing stones at the sea or making tea in rented accommodation. Camps like this make that possible.
There's something of the bulldog spirit about people who come on holiday to the English seaside. perhaps we like to gamble with the weather? Or is it because we like the smell of the briny, the sand in the sandwiches, and the sheer kiss-me quickness of it all?
Hythe is the end of the line, or the beginning, because it's here the trusty locomotives are uncoupled and turned by hand, ready to strike out for all points south. This is the kind of station we all dream of coming home to at the end of a long day. All neat white painted fences and hanging baskets, shiny brasswork and pottery owls. And of course a chirpy apple-cheeked station master who remembers your name and will probably offer you a nice cup of tea if it was in the regulations. What is remembered is that Howie liked to drink and his wife didn't, so he named the only miniature bar car in the world Gladys in her honour. George Johnson's Behind the Bar.
This is our real ale that we have brewed specially for us.
What is it? Still steaming along? This
Still
is a
steaming along.
Foaming steam ale, is it?
Yeah, and they change the brew every year. And about 4 years ago, we got a batch that when you opened it, it went whoosh.
Like a steam engine.
So we had to change that.
No metric nonsense on the Romney Hythe Dymchurch, I hope, George.
Of course not.
The smell of slight Kentish hop with a touch of oil and smoke, I think, here.
Not oil, really.
I think sort of Polish coal I can taste.
Yes,
and,
yes.
A little bit of
Better than last year, Colombian coal.
Colombian Coke.
Coal.
Oh, Colombian Coke, I thought you said. That's a bit different, isn't it?
We're getting a bit high on the few of these. This is sort of a confessional. Every rumour on the railway comes in here. I have to sort of sort out which is the best and which is the worst. And pass on the ones that I think should be passed on. Otherwise, no, everyone chats in here. I mean, part of the job here is to recognise when people want to chat and when they don't want to chat.
That's the way they are out here in the marshes, pioneer folk who give you space. After all, they've got plenty to spare. In typically British fashion, the Romney Hythe and Dymchurch Railway actually ends somewhere else. Dungeness.
It's the end of the world as we know it. But somehow it feels fine.
This remote bit of England is famous for the beauty of the stony landscape, a certain wild windswept-ness, and its nuclear power station.
Which, architecturally speaking, isn't all that great. But when you think about it, people that choose to live in a place like this must be onto something special.
Diane is an incomer who came in and stayed. Like so many people who live out here, she'd come to the edge and home. For her, it's a corner of England that will be forever West Coast America.
It's like the desert of Southern California.
Really?
Yes, just that you have a little bit of sea in the background and you don't have the great weather.
But it's cold, isn't it? It's cold
Exactly.
and damp and grey.
So
That's everything.
visually it's fantastic because it really is just like where I grew up.
So what do you see when you wake up? What do you see from this house?
I see sky and horizon and big space.
And why don't you get that, do you think, elsewhere in England? Why couldn't you have chosen another
Because
place?
every place either has trees or it's got some form of nature that's in your way visually, or if you live in a city, there are buildings with walls with, brown colors, gray colors. This is just completely vast and open and fantastic. We're only something like 80 miles from London, but you'd have no sense of being anywhere near a big city here, which is what's so fantastic about it.
And so this is the Great Escape.
Completely the Great Escape.
And do you ever use the railway?
I do. I go shopping in Hythe on the railway.
Really?
Yes. Outings in Dymchurch on the railway. One of the great features of Dungeness is the railway.
Well, there she goes, the last train on the Romney Hythe and Dymchurch Railway in the evening, steaming her way back to Hythe and back to the one-to-one scale world of shopping malls and cul-de-sacs and traffic jams.